Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third and final session in our Cocktales series. My name is Tally Veron. I'm the founder and publisher at the Soapbox Press, and I'm so excited to be your host this evening. Tonight, we're going to be putting the spotlight on two brilliant authors, Cindy Aronson and Tamara Herman, in anticipation of their brand new novel, Jagged Edge. Tonight at After the Honeymoon, we'll be talking about sustaining happy and healthy long-term relationships. Before we go any further, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that although we're gathering in a virtual space, the Soapbox Press rests on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We encourage you to learn the history of the land you are currently on as we reflect on the past and acknowledge the changes that can be made going forward in the process of truth and reconciliation. In a few short moments, we'll be welcoming Cindy and Tamara to the stage, but before we do, let's take care of a bit of housekeeping. The first 30 minutes of the event will be a lively discussion with Cindy and Tamara as we discuss all aspects of what makes for happy and healthy long-term relationships and marriages, how that relates to Jagged Edge, and the experiences of the authors. When we reach the Q&A portion of the event, which will take place during roughly the last 10 to 15 minutes, we'll invite you to use the raise hand function if you'd like to talk to the authors directly, and then we'll turn on your mic so you can speak. You're also welcome to use the Q&A box to ask your question, and we'll read it out loud and direct it to the authors. Or I will read it out loud and direct it to the authors. If you'd like to chat with other attendees or with the authors or myself, make sure that you use the chat box throughout the event, and make sure that when you're leaving a message that you like all attendees to see, you select all panelists and attendees. This event is closed captioned, and to enable captions, just press closed captions at the bottom of your screen. It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce you to Cindy and Tamara. Cindy Aronson has been supply teaching in Toronto for over 2 decades, allowing her the freedom to advocate for her 2 sons who struggle with ADHD and social anxiety. After an often challenging childhood that saw her spending many years as the primary caregiver for her ailing mother, Cindy learned that creative writing was a powerful outlet to release her own stress. Cindy enjoys writing that reflects both the darker and comedic facets of her persona. Several of her poems have been published in various local anthologies. Jagged Edge is her first full-length novel. Tamara Herman spent over 20 years teaching English literature and music in secondary schools in Toronto before fully turning her attention to writing. Aside from writing, she devotes much of her time advocating for her 2 sons, both of whom are on the autism spectrum. Due to her own struggles with mental health issues, Tamara uses her extensive knowledge, research skills, and enthusiasm for learning about the human psyche as the basis for much of her personal writing. Tamara has published several short stories, poems, and nonfiction works. Jagged Edge is her first full-length novel. So now let's welcome them to the stage.
Okay, so yeah, okay, fix that. No, it's good. It's good. It's good. Okay, good. Oh. Hello. Hi.
No. Hello. How are you two doing? Oh no. I'm sorry, that's my fault.
We're good. How are you?
Good, good. It's nice to see you both again.
You too.
Of course, what draws my attention immediately are your beautiful drinks that are right front and center. So I feel like we should waste no time and dive right in. What are you drinking tonight?
I invented something called the HEA. The reason why it's called the HEA, which stands for Happily Ever After, is because in the style of the novel that we've written, the contemporary romance genre, what differentiates it from other types of genres within romance, like subgenres within romance, is that it does have the happily ever after. And I'm not giving anything away that, you know, regardless of what the ending is, it's part of the genre, it's part of the trope. So we're having the happily ever after, and that's why we're having the happily ever after drink. So essentially it's like a peppermint mocha on steroids. And it's
amazing. And I'm sure it tastes amazing too.
Oh, it does.
Even without the whipped cream. Still very good.
It's just not as fun.
Also fun. Well,
We
mine is
covered last week why I have the low-fat version.
Correct.
and mine is just the coffee. Oh,
What's
so and mine is just the coffee. So it's kind of like we're going down in levels. But before we get right into our conversation, we have some of our attendees tonight are joining us, and they've been with us over the last couple of weeks. Some are brand new. So just to catch everyone up to speed and put everyone on the same page, why don't you give us a quick synopsis of Jagged Edge?
Yeah, absolutely. So just as you said, we've had a lot of people who have joined us tonight who have been with us the last couple of weeks as well, and several new people. I do want to acknowledge a couple of people that I know are having some significant health issues, and regardless, they've made the effort and the conscious effort to be here tonight, and that we're humbled by that. So really, we appreciate that, and I mean, welcome to everybody. But yes. Okay, so the synopsis, the short version, the summary essentially is that we have two characters. It takes place in Toronto. Two main characters, a male and a female. The male's name is Ryder. The female's name is Lily. And they meet each other sort of by happenstance. There's an immediate draw, an immediate attraction. And they do get together. The only problem is that Ryder realizes that he knows something about Lily that she does not know about him in return. So there's something that
an underlying connection
that binds them together. It is this underlying connection that Ryder fears that when and if she finds out, it will really sort of destroy her
and their relationship.
So that's essentially what it's about. I think it's important to note that it does take place in Toronto. We felt very, very strongly about having a Canadian connection. Most of the genre, the books in the genre, they do not take place in Canada. I don't know that there's a significant number of Canadian authors in the genre. So as such,
it was just one more of the characteristics that we tried to employ that would mark our distinction from others in the genre.
Yeah, and it's important to us to be Canadian. And so we mentioned Canadian places and Canadian events, and particularly synonymous with Toronto. It was important to us. So, and in a nutshell, that's it.
And yes, there is.
That's also in Toronto.
Great summary. And as we will not humbly say to everyone tonight many times, read the book, buy the book. It is amazing and you will not regret it. Yeah.
You can pre-order it on the Soapbox website, which I think Tally you'll put up. Yes. And it is available for pre-order and it is being launched on December 18th. So that's a good day.
Yes. So lots to look forward to, but we have a lot to look forward to tonight as well, because I'm dying to get to our conversation, or our questions rather, for this evening. Awesome. So the last 2 weeks, the way we've kind of structured all of our conversations is where we start with talking about the book and then we kind of move out to more to your experiences. But I think this time around, it's really fitting if we go about it the other way. So we're talking about sustaining happy and healthy marriages or long-term relationships. And I know that you're both happily married. So can you share your love stories with us?
I will give you, okay. So she'll share her love story. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I just want to say out of the 3 topics, this one was the one that I was most excited about because, and this is going to sound...
She loves her husband.
Yes, because I love my husband and I'm a very lucky woman and I look for any and every opportunity to talk about him. So I was very excited about this topic. Hi, honey. So my love story actually begins with somebody in the audience. One of my best friends, Tracy Brown. Hi, Trey. Her and her husband, she and her husband, thank you for correcting my grammar in front of everyone.
Sorry, Mom.
Yes, sorry, Edith. I had broken up with someone and Tracy decided that I needed to be fixed up and her and her husband, who was then her boyfriend, decided that they were going to fix me up with this guy named Sean. And Sean was in university with Jeremy, and we met on a double date. And on that double date was 28 years ago. And so we owe it all to Tracy and Jeremy Brown. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. In 28 years, congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, hang on, there's a comment here. Some of my friends can't seem to get in. Their computers say to wait for the host to launch.
Okay, well, so we're going to try something that we don't typically do. I'm going to put the link to the webinar in the chat, and can that be sent out to the participants that want to get in? Because it seems like, Edith, you have their emails? Or Tam?
She does.
Or not? Technical difficulties, because I don't know, I can't do anything. I don't see them here as they're trying to get in.
It's weird because it's strange because I can see all the participants and
Yeah. Well, maybe one recommendation for them is if they close out of whatever window they're trying to enter and press the link again and maybe try again, and hopefully it works. It is the right link. There's only one link that was sent.
Right. It could also be maybe they have an issue with their video.
Maybe sometimes it takes a while. Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. But
it will be on YouTube.
Yeah, the event is being recorded so everyone can watch
You know,
it.
I did actually search up our first, I watched about 10 seconds and had to turn it off. I just couldn't do it.
Oh, but anyways, sorry, hopefully everyone will be able to enter. But Tam, what about your love story?
So I met Marty on something called J-Date. So
I remember that.
Yep, this was in the mid-90s or so. There was, there was like the beginning of the online dating websites and stuff. I mean, I'm sure hundreds of them now, but this one was called J-Date because it was for Jewish singles. Now, it wasn't for me that it was important that the religion of the person that I dated ultimately marry, but it was an issue for my family. So I thought, what the heck, I'll try there. It's just another pool of men from whom to choose. So I was about to give up because I had met such schmucks so far. I was about to give up.
I had my fair share of schmucks before Sean too.
Yeah. And then I got this message.
Part of the process.
It is. So I got this message from this guy. I'm like, kind of cute. I think his image was with him. He was playing golf or something. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So, texted, hey, yeah, we can meet if you want. Don't meet if you don't want. Don't care. So it was very laissez-faire. And I went to pick him up at his apartment because at the time I had a car. He didn't. And this is 1998, 97, 98. And I remember standing in front of these two glass double doors, big, huge glass double doors in front of his apartment building. And I'm like, well, that's just freaking awkward because, I'm going to see him when he's walking down. And then where do I look? Do I look here? Do I stare at him? And so I turned around and I was facing the other direction. And then as I heard the doors open, I did one of these. And Marty
told me, the infamous hair toss.
It was. And Marty told me later on that he knew that second that I turned around that he was going to marry me.
So cute.
Well, yes.
I came home from the double date and I went up to talk to my mom and she asked me how it went. And I said, that is the guy I'm going to marry.
And I did the same thing.
I knew on our first date it took Sean 5 years to get there.
and I knew, Martin Herman has just texted, all 100% true. It's true, it is. I remember that I had left his apartment and called my mom because she knew I was going on this date and she knew I was very frustrated. And she called, so how was it? And I'm like, I don't know. He kind of laughs like a hyena. And it freaked me out a bit.
I heard him laugh. I don't think he laughs like a hyena.
Okay, no, laugh. And that was back in the day when he did laugh. We've gotten way too serious for that now, but what at first I thought was going to be sort of something that was going to bother me, I find it became endearing. Now I look forward to hearing that laugh. It doesn't happen enough, not because he's unhappy or anything, but just because, life is stressful. So it's nice to hear it. And that is the story of how we met.
Oh, I love it. Both of your stories are so sweet, and it's so incredible that you both knew kind of immediately when you met your now husbands that you would marry them. So would you say then that you believe in love in first sight?
No.
For me, it wasn't love at first sight. It was love at first joke. But on that double date, Sean made me laugh. And I had grown up in a home where there was so much challenge and struggle and seriousness that a sense of humor in a man was very important to me. Sean made me laugh on that double date, and every single day since the day we met, he has made me laugh.
So, and the irony for me is that I am diagnosed ADHD. And the irony is that for the one time in my life, I was not impulsive because I was suddenly like, okay, I kind of like him, really good looking. Shit. I was terrified of what to do with that. So was it a question of love at first sight? I think it was very much like at first sight. I was just really terrified to let that go into something, and especially so quickly and with such impulsivity. And in the meantime, we moved in together a couple months later, and he proposed 6 months later, and we got married basically 6 months after that.
Wow.
We were both closing in on 30. So I think we were 28, and enough pissing around.
Yeah, no, mine took a little bit longer.
Well, yeah, but
we dated for 3.5 years before Sean proposed, and then we got married a year later. So we were already together almost 5 years by the time we got married.
Wow. Well, I mean, the result is the same. You're both still with the same person. You're both happy. So
they got married on my oldest son's first birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. That's why I never forget their anniversary.
Or his birthday.
Yeah.
I love that.
He's now 22.
Yeah. And our youngest, they're both her youngest, my oldest, are both 18, almost 19.
Ryan's going to be 19 in January.
Yeah, almost 19.
Yeah,
and
my baby.
They just announced today, they didn't announce, we announced to them that they're moving the fuck out.
We're going to pay for them to move out.
So
we agree.
It's official. We found an apartment for them, and when they go to McMaster University, they'll be living off campus in an apartment with another young lad that they know, and
a few more.
And others too.
Yeah.
So even if the school winds up being closed again,
they're still out.
They're still out. Goodbye.
I don't want him out. He wants out.
Yeah,
well, maybe we'll be waiting for their book next about their adventures in university living together.
No, I don't want to know. I don't want to read it. I don't want to know.
Less is more.
Denial is not just a river in Egypt.
Yeah, no.
Fair enough. Oh, okay, so let's take things back to, I guess, your marriages. So in your opinion, what makes for a happy and healthy relationship?
Well, I'm not going to say what makes for a happy and healthy relationship.
Alcohol.
I can say what has helped make our marriage happy and healthy for us.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, sense of humor. Sean makes me laugh every day. But I tell this to anyone who asks, Sean and I are very different people. Our personalities are extreme opposites. Our likes, our interests, we're very, very different. And we use that to balance each other out. So I have anxiety, Sean does not. I have strengths in areas that he struggles in. He has strengths in areas that I struggle in. And we just kind of try and balance each other out. When I'm kind of veering off, he grounds me. And when he gets going in a direction that isn't healthy, I rein him in. And we work really hard at having each other's back. We communicate above, all else. Even if it's something we know that the other person doesn't want to hear, we communicate. We don't assume what the other person is thinking or feeling. We ask and we listen. And also the really important thing for when we went into the marriage was that, and as if you were with us last week, I come with a lot of baggage. And as I said, Sean has his issues as well, because nobody's perfect. But we went into the marriage knowing who the other person was and accepting who the other person was without any intent to change that person. Mm-hmm. And we've never strayed away from that. We've always continued to love and accept and support each other for who we are without any expectation that we are going to make them into something different. And I think those are basically like the three kind of rocks of foundation in our marriage. And excuse me, I can see I'm getting red. I am having a hot flash from hell right now.
Both of us.
I can't even tell you.
I know. I was going to fan you. You fan me.
Such a hot flash right now.
It was brutal.
Sorry.
I think the only one key that I will add that's worked for us is space. As much as we enjoy each other's company, I need space. He needs space. And it's that alone time that we have, and that independent time that I think is what keeps our relationship as strong as it is, because we both have experiences outside of just the two of us. So it gives us something new to talk about, something new to investigate.
And I think it's also important that each person have their own time for themselves, right, to fulfill their own needs, so that they have something to give back to the marriage, when you are together.
Absolutely. We spend a lot of time together, especially the last several months now, now that Marty's been working from home several days a week. And of course, when we were in the initial stages of lockdown, he was here all the time. And it was incredibly stressful being on top of each other like that, in such a small place, and just in our house, and we couldn't go anywhere.
Not that this house is so small, let me tell you.
But point is that after he sort of chilled out a bit with respect to the workload, because it was really scary for him, not being able to work, and what's going to happen. And I think he just chilled out, and I found that we actually started getting along really, really well. He became much more animated, a lot more fun to be around, less stress.
I've seen it change too.
Yeah, and it really translated to a much lighter-hearted person that I certainly wanted to spend more time with even. Not to say that there was anything wrong with him in the beginning, it's just that, stresses create problems and distance. And it was a pleasure to have that change. And I think this is more of his real personality now, which is why I think things, especially recently, have been going just amazing.
That's so good to hear, because as soon as you said space, I immediately thought of the pandemic and how now everyone is exactly on top of each other at home. And yeah, I feel like that has had a very polarizing effect. With some people, it has brought them really close together, and with other people, like, it has torn apart families.
Yeah.
So it's really great to hear that it has been positive in your case.
Yeah, absolutely. I think even our kids are better for it too. Not because of their parents, but just because of the general levity in our house these days, that everybody's in a somewhat better mood. Ironically.
That's good. Let things stay that way.
Exactly. Well, except for the
except for that.
Yeah.
That can go. Okay, so, kind of, well, I don't know, maybe an easy question, hard question, I guess depends, but how would you say that you've changed throughout your relationship, and then the same goes for your partners?
I think that with the love and support of my husband and I talked a lot about this last week. We were talking about my issues with body image and body dysmorphic disorder, that I have come to accept myself in ways that I have struggled to accept myself for many, many years. Every day, and I said every day my husband makes me laugh, but every day he also tells me how beautiful I am and how smart I am. And today he texted me, he said, "You are my world." The other day I was having a bad day at work, and I checked my phone and a text came in from him, and he said, "Are you struggling with something?" or something like that. And I was, and I just went off and told him. And I said, "How did you know?" And he said, "I just felt your vibe." I just felt it. So with his support and his encouragement and all of these, sappy, wonderful, lovely ways that he supports me, it's really allowed me to grow as a person, as a human, and in terms of accepting myself and letting go of a lot of things and laughing at things that I normally would have cried over or stressed over. Like I said, it's balance, right? He's kind of brought me over to this side, and I've kind of brought him over to this side, and we meet in the middle.
And speaking of sides, I mean, Marty's brought me over to the dark side. His nickname is Darth Vader, so I appreciate everything that she was saying about what Sean does. And since I've known her for going on 10 years now, I've never known their relationship to be anything but. It's almost, sorry, but it's almost grotesque.
They make fun of us. People make fun of us.
We do, because it's not that it's unnatural, but it's just that it's so like almost like a movie cliche, but it's true.
I'm sorry. Okay, but I have to tell this little story. And Jessica, you were there, so you can back me up. Jessica has this amazing cottage, and every year until the pandemic, we would have girls' weekends at the cottage. And the last one that we were at, there was quite a few other women there, and all the other women were kind of, bitching about their husbands and moaning about their husbands and complaining, whatever. And a lot of them had very legitimate issues, and I just listened, but I kept my mouth shut. And then they started asking me about my husband, and I didn't want to say very much because I didn't want to seem like I was, bragging or whatever. But I would say a few things here or there. And I don't even remember what I said, but one of them looked at me and said, "Are you serious? Like, really?" And she actually turned to Jessica and said, "She's lying, right? Like, there's no way she's serious." And Jessica said, "No, it's disgusting, but it's true."
And that's exactly what it is. And we make fun of it. Sorry, Sean, but we make fun of it because it is nauseating. It's something that I think is very movie-ish.
We still hold hands. I still sit on his lap. We still hug and kiss with people around. Like, yeah, it's just, I don't know.
It's true. I mean, if Marty ever did anything like that with me, I'd be suspicious.
They actually kissed. I don't know, what was it, for your birthday or something? I don't remember. I saw them kiss and I was like my jaw dropped. In 10 years, it's the first time I've ever seen them kiss. And it was just a little peck, but it was like.
You asked before about what has changed and between the two of us. Way back when I was one kind of person, and now I'm not. I'm a different kind of person, and that's okay too. I'm not.
We're
Cindy and I are very.
I think it's just a natural progression as you get older too.
Yeah, and we're also very different in just our personalities. Incredibly different in our personalities, and in that respect. And what I think is
reflected by our symbols, right? Like our symbols. Like I love hearts. I wear hearts. True. Everything is about hearts. If you were to see Tam's house, you would see their skulls everywhere. Right? That just indicates the difference, right?
All right. So she's all about love and life. I'm all about death. What can I say? I'm not.
When anyone asks, like, how did the two of you write a book together? It's that balance,
It's like Sean and I, right? We had strengths in different areas, and we brought it together to balance each other out and to combine our strengths.
I can't get you Moriarty right now. Oh, I'm sorry. You know, it is true. But Marty and I think are actually quite similar in that respect. We both have the dog. We both have very acerbic wit. We're both extremely intelligent,
and they both love to quote movie lines.
Yes, but I mean, Marty's way more intelligent than me, and I can hold my own. But he's just really freaking smart.
Doesn't he have like an eidetic memory?
He has an eidetic memory, which is
Sheldon Cooper.
Yes,
Wow.
but without the Aspergeriness. But you know, we both have done a lot of changing. He went through a period of time where he was just very, very stressed, and there was so much negativity that wore on us in terms of the relationship. And at a certain point, I think he's learned to just let the hell go of some of that negativity. And I've learned to also let go of a lot of things that to me are stuff that might have been important to me at one point, but then I sort of recognize, maybe they aren't that important. You know, I'm not a huge romantic, which is ironic again, considering the nature of the book, but that came from her. You know, I'm very technical in that respect, but you know, Marty and I have a very like a cutesy thing going on where there's a lot of teasing and but it's all very friendly, and the banter that we have
banter,
is
yeah.
It is
It's like our banter.
It is, and I think that that's what has changed for a lot of us, is that we've, after 21 years of marriage, we've really I think we've really settled into being ourselves and our real selves, and not trying to put on any kind of show for the other person any longer. I mean, no, that being said, it's only been the last couple of months that I've actually been able to fart in front of him and not be like completely horrified. You know, I will be horrified.
That's
What's that?
You made it 21 years. That's a long time. It's a long time.
I mean, yeah.
We didn't even let the characters do that in the book.
No, they haven't known each other long enough.
Yeah, they haven't paid their dues yet.
Yeah. If we were to write a sequel with them in like an old folks home or something,
yeah, maybe.
Then maybe they could fart in front of each other, but that's okay because they probably wouldn't remember anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry.
Next question.
Moving on.
So next question. What would you say is the biggest misconception about marriage?
Oh.
I think that you have to be absolutely perfectly suited to each other.
Yeah, no.
Huge
Sean and I are
misconception.
opposites, complete opposites.
But I don't even mean just like the whole opposites attract thing. I don't think that you can't match in every single element. You know, I love eggs. Marty doesn't love eggs. You know, stupid things like that. You don't have to match. You know,
you don't have to match
elements.
You just have to accept.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And although I think that one of the other things is, maybe it's a misconception, I don't know, maybe it's just, you know, in my experience, you do have to, you learn to accept, you learn to adjust, but you don't have to
compromise yourself.
Well, no, compromise is good, but you don't have to compromise your own.
I mean, compromise on issues, but you don't compromise yourself.
Your own self.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people, especially younger folks, I think that they would make the move to try to change themselves to appeal to the other person of what they want, and the one person will try to perhaps be something that they're not, and I think that that's incredibly detrimental. So I think that's a misconception with respect to any kind of relationship, not just marriage, that you have to be on the same page all the time.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
I think another misconception is that if you have arguments, that's it, it's done, it's over.
Oh gosh.
I mean, if that was the case, then
no one would be married.
You know, but yeah, I you know what, you know the expression, make sure that you don't go to bed angry with each other.
I was just thinking that.
No, but I haven't finished yet.
No, but whatever. Go ahead.
Don't go to bed angry. Stay up and fight.
Fighting
Way
is
more
communication.
Fun. It is. It is.
Yeah.
It is. And as long as one person is listening, it's all good. And it's usually like, you know, the husband in this case. As long as he accepts, we're all good.
Cindy, what about you? What do you think is
She said it all. I got nothing more to add to that.
Okay, fair enough. But that was really great. I think that's I'm glad that you demystified those things. Because I think especially I would say around younger people, there's this very common tendency of like, you have to perform and put on this whole facade of who you are so someone likes you. And then years down the line, you can, you know, show your true self, which I think is a horrible, horrible way to do anything. But anyways.
Well, I mean, within reason, you show your true self. Because frankly, I won't take all my clothes off or anything because ain't no one want to see that, right? So, yeah. Sorry.
So
I brought a lot of the humor to the book.
And I'm really glad that you mentioned the book because let's talk about the book. So I know that your families played a big part in inspiring many of the characters in Jagged Edge.
They really did.
Yep.
So
right now.
I would for each of you to share a character that was based on one of your loved ones, and then tell us how you drew that inspiration from them.
All right, so I think it's quite plainly obvious for people who know both of us and our spouses together. And if they read the book, they'll be able to say, okay, we didn't change the names. I mean,
the
we gave them
names,
the first names. We gave them different last names, but if you read the book and you know both of us or our spouse and with our spouses, that a lot of what we've written is quite true to character. We've created these characters based on, I guess, what we love about our partners. Yeah. You know, there's
so Sean's the comic relief.
Sean is the comic relief, the sidekick kind of thing. Yeah. Marty, he is a lawyer in actuality. He is in the book as well. We did write in a little bit of a subplot for Marty that
would you
I will not tell. I will not tell, but yeah, you're gonna want to read that one.
You're gonna want to read it. It was one of my favorite moments in the whole book.
Okay, but we're not telling that one. We are not telling that one, but that one will come as a bit of a shock. So yeah, Sean's like the comic relief. He's the and he's the IT guy, which he is as well in real life. And Marty's got like I said, a very acerbic wit and sarcasm about him. I even got him a couple of shirts. He's so sarcastic. I got him a couple of t-shirts. One that says National Sarcasm Society, like we need your support, and something else. Anyway, we picked up on those mannerisms, those personality quirks, because those are the things that we enjoy, and they're the things that we enjoy about our husbands. We think that they make them the characters that they are, and the people that they are. So you should read yours first because it comes just before mine. Okay. So hang on, the glasses have to go on.
We should point this out every time?
Every time.
I can't see, I'm old, I need glasses.
No, it's how we announce that we're doing a reading.
Oh yes, that's what we're doing. That's why the glasses are going on. All right, let me move the coffee out of the way.
All right, so just up until this point, just so you know, we're giving a little bit of background about when the main group of buddies in the book meet. So we're giving some history into their relationships.
Okay, ready?
Oh, good, yeah. Go.
Okay. Ryder and Marty were tete-a-tete in conversation at Zoetic Ventures head office when Sean Danziger abruptly entered the office. Barging in without knocking was a very Sean thing to do, and Marty and Ryder teased him nonstop about both his mannerisms and his South African background. Hi you. That's the only South African accent I'm going to do. Ryder and Marty asked simultaneously, mocking the very specific intonation of the South African accented manner of greeting. Sean stopped dead in his tracks. Fuck you both and the horses you rode in on, he chastised. I've been in this fucking country almost as long as I've lived in South Africa. I don't even have an accent anymore. Sean wasn't exactly pissed off. He could take the gentle ribbing, especially since it came all of the time. Besides, he reminded his friends, when someone has an accent, that means they know at least one more language than you do. Then why don't you lose the accent over the A in your name? What does it even mean? Marty questioned. It's just a pronunciation thing my mother insisted on. Otherwise, South Africans butcher my name. But Sean teased back as good as he got, mocking both Ryder and Marty often about their mutual interest in flying. Crash another plane again, morons? He was referring, of course, to the time that Ryder and Marty were both on a flight when a sudden encounter with a sparrow resulted in a sliced and diced bird, blood all over the windscreen, and an unscheduled landing in a nearby cornfield. Sean walked over and shook hands with both Ryder and Marty. He was another member of the inner sanctum of the Zoetic group, having been there from the start. Though he worked primarily in IT for the firm, Sean, Marty, and Ryder, along with Jack, were a regular foursome, hanging out in their time off as well. They also originally met at university. Ryder had been hunkered down in the Frosch College computer lab one night, trying desperately to print out a political science essay that was long past its due date, and that he had promised would be submitted by that afternoon at the very latest. But now it was late on that Friday evening, and instead of having the paper printed and submitted to his professor, Ryder had gone out with Marty and Jack, drinking copious amounts of alcohol at the pub. And now, the three of them were back in the lab trying to come up with excuses for Ryder to give his professor to explain the lack of submission of his paper yet again. But even between the three of them, they still couldn't figure out why the essay wouldn't print, regardless of the number of times they drunkenly clicked Control-P. At the control hub in the back of the room sat Sean, a first-year comp sci student who was working the lab during the late shift to make a couple of bucks. For the past 15 minutes, he had been thoroughly entertained by the antics of three guys who didn't know their computer asses from a hole in the ground. He watched them flail in technological helplessness until he finally took pity on them and walked over. Do you guys need some help? Sean stifled the urge to laugh in their faces, since them needing help was unequivocally obvious. Yeah, dude, Marty said, we can't get this fucking paper to print. What the hell is wrong with your machines here? Well, replied Sean, I'm just guessing. But do you think that it might have something to do with the lack of paper in the printer? Of course, I could be wrong. Sean walked over to the printer, added a ream of paper to it, and the four of them watched as 23 copies of Ryder's essay came spooling out, one after the other.
So I think that a lot of what actually happened in there between both Marty's parts and Sean's, they're so true to form. We're together every Saturday night, more or less, and that's their banter.
Yeah,
it really is. Like, that's them. All right, so I'm just going to read a short bit more that will give more insight into both Marty and Sean's characters. So Ryder and Marty were busy in Ryder's office trying to access the constantly changing information on the NASDAQ in order to scrub out any competition for their latest acquisition. But significant slowdowns in their tech were really pissing them off. Okay, Sean said, what's going on now? Any chance you can get these computers moving faster than a granny with a walker? Sean replied quickly to the question, suspecting why Ryder had called him to his office in the first place. Slipping out of bromance mode and straight into IT verbiage, Sean tried to give them the most direct answer. Well, earlier this morning, we had an accidental fiber cut with our primary link to the NASDAQ. The secondary link with the additional load became saturated. We're working on rerouting some of the traffic through one of our hubs in New York. It should be up shortly. Right now, I'm just waiting for word that the changes have been implemented. Marty and Ryder looked at each other before Ryder turned back to Sean and said, try speaking English? Marty chuckled. So, Sean, when you ask me questions about the legalese of your car lease, do I recite to you the 800-year history of English common law, or do I just answer your fucking question? Sean sighed. These two were such dummies when it came to tech. Sean never once had to worry about being out of a job there. Never mind, Sean said. I'll be back up and running effectively in about 20 minutes. Think you can hold on until then? Sean laughed and plopped himself into a nearby chair, figuring the three of them would just shoot the shit until 20 minutes had gone by to reboot the system. Sean generally unable to become coy. I will start that again. Too much happily ever after. Sean, generally unable to be coy, favoring being forthright over duplicity in gaining information, turned to his friends and asked, "So, what's that latest with the new chick you're banging? What's her name again? Some flower name, right? The one we met last month." Ryder glared at Sean. What? What did I say? Sean asked, completely unaware of what Ryder's look implied. Marty decided he would intervene in the conversation, saving Sean from a slow and agonizing death. Sean, Ryder's in love. He has a girlfriend now. An actual, real commitment. Our buddy is officially off the market. Marty burst out laughing, doing his best imitation of back when they were young and stupid, teasing each other about their progress or lack thereof with the ladies. Sean looked squarely at Ryder. "No shit," he said. "Good for you, Ryder. She's completely hot. I would do her." Ryder pierced him once again with daggers from his eyes. "What? Now what did I say?" Marty, Ryder, and Sean all laughed together as they turned back to the computer to wait for the next update.
And thank you, Sean, for all of that computer IT language.
And Marty for the stuff about the bird strike.
Yeah.
Because Marty
I hope we got it right.
Pilot, so.
Oh my God.
They practically checked it for us, so.
That was so great. I always love hearing you read portions of the book out loud. It brings it to life in a totally different way. And also, I think based on all of the conversations that we've had, it really, your reading gives everyone a great idea of just how fantastic the characters are. And then they get a bit of an idea of where those characters came from.
Thank you.
And hopefully our husbands are not offended.
Well, that actually very nicely takes us into the Q&A, because the first question that we got is from Zoe, and she asks, how does your family or your husbands specifically feel about being written about? And thanks so much for this event. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, I think Sean, and you can disagree with me in the chat if you'd like, honey, but I think Sean, again, so supportive. If us turning him into a character for the book was what we wanted to do and what we thought would be successful, he would be on board. And he's never said anything to,
Never said anything otherwise.
Yeah, otherwise. Our sons, however, that's a different story.
Yeah.
We didn't ask their permission. We didn't care if they cared.
Still don't.
Yeah. But yeah, they're in there too. We've modeled characters after them as well. Them, they're not so thrilled, but they love their moms, so they let us get away with it.
Maybe.
Let's just go with that.
Maybe. We'll go with that. Yeah. Okay. As far as Marty, I mean, he's never said anything to the contrary, so I do think that...
I think he's like an ego boost for him.
I hope so. Oh, did he just laugh? I think I just heard him snicker. I do think so. I think he likes his characterization. He had a lot of input into it. He actually, we had, when I had questions about, certain elements they
were very helpful.
They were really helpful, both of them. I remember there was a scene we were talking about hockey, and we know fuck all about hockey. So we were speaking to them, and then they gave us a lot of good insight.
IT, legalese.
Yeah.
That was all them.
Yeah, no, it really was. And KGB stuff.
Yeah.
I did have to ask my son once or twice about some things. He's a poli-sci and history major at uni, so he had those answers. And I think that they don't mind. I don't think that either of them mind particularly. I don't know if they're like, oh, this is amazing and wonderful. And
well, they haven't read the book and they don't know like the scenes that they're in or what they say or what they do. They just know that we base characters on their personality.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. We have a great question from Varaki. She says, in a relationship, how do you compromise with your partner without having to compromise your own needs? Or how do you know if you're compromising your own needs?
In a relationship, how do you compromise with your partner without having to compromise your own needs? I don't think I necessarily do.
I think
if it's,
well, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but with Sean and I think we acknowledge what's truly important to the other. And so if something's like really important to Sean, and it means that I may have to step outside my comfort zone or do something that I, maybe don't 100% want to do. And I'm not talking about anything serious, but like, I don't feel like he doesn't feel like cleaning up the kitchen today because, he's got a headache or whatever, or he wants to go out with his friends, or like, do you know what I mean? I'm not talking about anything serious, but like, we take that into consideration. Like if it's something important to Sean and me compromising, isn't that big of a deal. I'm happy to do it to make him happy.
But it's
not the same for him.
It's not that we're compromising our values in any way, or what
we're making a compromise, but
right.
we're not compromising ourselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if we wind up in a position where it is something that's compromising our needs, or that we both understand that it is, then either somebody's got to give, or nobody gets what they want ultimately. It's not a question of, I think that somebody always is going to be, left holding the short end of the stick. It's not that, but no. If it does come down to something like that, then you got to figure it out.
I mean, in marriage, there are going to be some hard choices.
There are going to be,
yeah, and not all the time, but there are some.
It's a important one, but when we had our 2 kids and there was that conversation, should we try for another one? Should we have another baby? In that case, we both looked at each other when somehow the topic came up. We both looked at each other and went, yeah, fuck no. And we couldn't handle the 2 that we had already. But
I would just like to say, when Sean and I, in the early years of marriage, he wanted 6. Okay? No. Sorry.
That's a lot. Like half a baseball team.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? When we talk at the beginning of our marriage, seriously, at the beginning of our marriage, he wanted 6 and I wanted 2. How are we going to, reach a compromise? But over time and with experience, and with experience with our family and with the children that we had, our views changed, right? Yeah. He, as reality set in, he realized 6 was great in fantasy land, but not so great in reality. And so sometimes you don't have to compromise because life does that for you.
Yeah. Okay. Very good answer to a difficult question. We have another question we have a question from Kayla. This is more a publishing writing question. How did you know when your book was done?
Sorry, Talia, I don't mean to interrupt, but thank you. You're very welcome, Farahi, by the way. I don't know if you can see them or not, but there are 2 questions from an anonymous attendee.
Oh yes, I'm just switching up the order, but we can.
Oh, I see. I didn't want that person to think that he or she was being dismissed. So if I can just really quickly address it, because I think that the person's second question may be very similar to Kayla's. Are you thinking of writing another novel? Yes, we are. We actually have 2 more in mind that are spin-offs of this. One is a Marty book. There's a sideline for him, but the other one is another character created. His name is Miller, and he is an absolute delight. We adore him. We adored writing him. So yes, we are thinking of doing that. The second question, do you have any tips for writers who are trying to get their work published? And then Tally, if you want to read the second one to see where it connects.
I think that's a good one to start with. So do you have any tips that are trying to get published? And then more like the next question is done. Yeah.
All right. So let's build on those then. Any tips? Well, yeah, I mean, you can try to self-publish. It is an enormous amount of money to spend on it. And
marketing is extremely difficult when you self-publish.
It's extremely difficult.
Getting it into stores is extremely difficult.
It really is. So I say
it's easy to put an electronic version online, right?
It is, but you are able to navigate it fairly easily, but the cost factor with the income, I guess, it's really just ultimately not worth it financially, unless you really just, you're doing it for the love of it.
And just to say you wrote a book and here it is and I did this.
I think otherwise you have to peddle the crap out of it.
Yeah.
So not all publishers take unsolicited submissions. So you have to look up publishers basically all over the place. North America, I guess, is a decent place to start. And
you have to be okay with rejection.
Yeah, and if they take unsolicited manuscripts, there's definitely a formula for what you can submit and what you can't, and they'll let you know that on their website. Don't expect to hear anything back from probably like 95% of them.
Yeah.
And maybe even more like 99%. And for the 1% that you do hear back from, I'd say about 0.5% of that will be rejections, and half of it will be, sounds interesting, get back to me when this happens.
Or it sounds interesting, but it's just not what we're looking for right now.
You gotta plug away, and you gotta it's gonna take time sometimes.
Well, it's been 5 years for us.
Yeah.
Since we started writing the book.
Yeah. So it will take time. Just like, if you really believe in it and what you wrote, don't give up. File it away. Keep, looking at it every now and again. Keep sending it out when you can.
Yeah.
And
but do it for the passion, not for the money.
Oh God, yeah. You don't even want to see what our take on this is.
That's a whole other.
And we split it in half.
Oh. And then building on that, so how did you know when your book was done? So that was the second question.
We didn't. That's the thing. We thought it was done, and we self-published it, and things kind of just settled down for a while, and we walked away for a while, being frustrated and whatnot, and then came back to it a while later and looked at each other and said,
"Yikes!
What the heck? Like this is a piece of crap. We need to really redo this."
Yeah, we put our egos in check and decided that this wasn't
our best.
Our best.
It was okay. It was okay, but it wasn't our best. And we've grown a lot and learned a lot. And when we went back to it with Tally's support, and made some really important changes. We wrote a lot of new scenes. We corrected a lot of dialogue. And it really wasn't until we sent Tally our finished copy, a couple months ago, that we were satisfied with the final copy and felt like it was done and ready to be, sent out of the nest.
And the fact that we just couldn't stand to look at it one more time, like reading it through for editing.
It's like when your children are still living at home when they're 30.
Yes.
That's what we felt like. It's like, it's time to go.
And it's like, so for those of you who have kids and you remember when they were babies and toddlers and you read them their favorite story again.
Yeah.
Good night again. And you read it again. Again. Oh my God. It's like, seriously? No.
Yeah.
No.
So, and with that said, we encourage everyone to read the book at least once.
Good.
We encourage everyone to read it at least once, but as it's 8:01, we do have one final question that I think is a great place for us to end off on before we wrap up for tonight. So from Nikki, she asks, I'm wondering if you learned anything new about marriage or your own marriage through writing this novel, any major or new realizations?
For me, yes.
I really do things more for you.
I can write whatever the hell I want about him, and I'm not worried about having to get divorced.
Okay, that's good.
Not where I thought she was going with that answer, but okay.
What?
I thought you were going to be serious.
No, me never.
Right.
No, I didn't learn anything new about it. Just that about our marriage. Just that it can take a lot. I count on my husband for a lot of things that sometimes he can't give me in words. But that, in actions, I know he offers me, but, no, I don't think I learned anything new about it from writing the novel, more that we actually understood our husbands better even.
Yeah. I don't think I learned anything new. I think it just reinforced and reminded me, how lucky I am.
Which That's a great place to end. So on that note, I just have to say thank you to both of you, not just for tonight, but for the last 3 weeks. It has been a true pleasure to spend every Thursday evening with the two of you and to get to know you better and also to introduce you to everyone who has been attending over the weeks. And with that said, thank you to all of our attendees tonight, whether you're joining us for the first time or if you've been coming for the last couple of weeks. It has been great to see you here, to have your comments, to have your questions, and thank you for being part of this series of events. With that said,
just one final thing before you go.
Ahead.
Marriages are not just between spouses.
Work wife.
You know, she's my best friend. I've never had one before, and she's my absolute best friend. And what we have may as well be a marriage as much as what we have with our husband.
By our own definition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's so great. So with that said, support Tam and Cindy, buy their novel. It's an incredible book. It is linked in the chat, and I just sent the link out again. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you all very soon. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. You'll get your books as soon as they're published on the 18th, sometime after that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great night.